What's going on? It's Kevin Kenny backstage at Billboard's Hot 100 Fest out on Long Island with my man, Jacquees.
Yeah.
What's going on, man?
What it do?
Thanks for coming through.
Already, thank y'all.
So I loved your music. I'm an R&B head, so I loved it the minute I heard it. But you know what really made me a fan of yours?
What was it?
I was going through your influences, and it was the Temptations, and it was the Jackson 5, and then I dug a little deeper, and that's because of those movies that were always on VH1.
Right.
How fun, dude, were those not always on?
They was though, but then not even that. We had them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we
Like
had the
at
actual. Yeah, we had the actual movies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And those are long movies, I remember. I feel like that
Yeah.
would be like an afternoon back in the day on TV.
But they was always on TV too though.
That's so funny. I love that it starts there, though, just the classics like that. To begin on somewhat of a somber note, of course, we lost Aretha Franklin this week.
Yeah, R.I.P. That was a queen.
And I was wondering if you just had any thoughts, on the Queen of Soul, as you just said.
Well, that's the R-E-S-P-C-T. You know what I'm saying? So we got a lot of respect for the queen. Legends, we hate when legends die. You know what I'm saying? Because it always hits you. You can always feel it. You know what I'm saying? But, of course, her legacy going to live on forever. Of course. And that's somebody that definitely, without me even knowing, was an influence. Because that song is kind of like how I learned how to spell respect. Yeah, definitely. I used to think about it like R-E-S-P-C-T.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Back in school, right, on the spelling test, just think of Aretha, right?
Yeah.
That's so funny, man. Well, congratulations on your feature on slime language.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to my brother, Thugga. Go get that slime language everywhere.
Absolutely. January 1st.
Yeah, I'm number one. That should have been my birthday.
That line. That's such a great line, man. How did you wind up on the track, and just if you could kind of go into working with Thug, because he's somebody that is so revered. I mean, there's even like memes. You know the meme of him in the studio, like working on records?
Well, Thug is a genius. You know what I'm saying? My brother a genius, and me working with him is always an honor, because we kind of came from the same little roots. With Rich Gang and all that, and when I work with Thug, it's always special because Slime is really talented and he's really different, and he can go so many ways with it. And I know that he believe in me, so that's always a plus. And how I got on Slime Language, well, me and Thug, we got so many records. We got records that ain't out. I had just left Atlanta, and I shot a video for another song that we got. It actually wasn't on Slime Language. It's for another project. But for this, I just text Thug one night, and I was like, bro, we need to do more records. You feel me? I'm like, we need to really do more records. And he sent me 2 records, and this was one of the records. And I got on and I laced it. And I called him on FaceTime, and he loved the record. I was playing it for him, and he loved it. And I sent it back to him, and we put Trap Boy Freddy on it. And that's just what it is.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites off the record. Can you speak to just Atlanta right now? Because that's a city that has been strong through every generation, through every decade, through every era, and it's always been different. And what I think is cool is I talk to a lot of Atlanta artists, and there aren't boundaries sonically in terms of the type of music you can make. You can always make your own music, make it your own. Would you say that right now is the greatest generation, though, in terms of Atlanta artists, when you look across the board?
Are you saying, is this the greatest generation of Atlanta artists ever?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that because, we don't want to take away from nobody that came before us. But I think that this wave of Atlanta is very massive, because you got to think about all the artists that's in Atlanta. Everybody that's really running the game is in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? You got to think. I ain't even got to name them. You already know who in Atlanta. So it's we all there, and we all making a mark. We all doing our thing. But you best believe, we definitely got respect for the people that came before us, though. It's 100%. All love. Yeah, we ain't trying to compete.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
No, that's a great mindset for sure, man. Can you kind of break down, because I think what people don't appreciate about Atlanta is there are different neighborhoods, right? There's the north side, the east side, of course. How does the musical influences break down geographically in Atlanta?
I'm from the east side.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So you got the east, the west, the north, the south side. It's all a different sound on every side, I feel like. The east, it is, but it's kind of all Atlanta, though.
Yeah.
Because we all kind of grew up around the same things, even though it's all different sides. But we all grew up different, though. Every side is different. The east side, and I like the west side. The west side, and I like the east side. The south side, and I like the north side. The north side, and I like the south side. But It's all different, and we all came from different places. But Atlanta is the base. So that's what we all, you know what I'm saying, spring up from,
Yeah, 100%. You were actually just on the road with Black and with Chris
and Black
Brown.
from the east side.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
What was that tour like?
That tour was dope. I always dreamed of going on tour with Chris Brown, so for God to let that come true, it was great.
Yeah.
And I rocked it out every night. All my fans was there every day. Shout out to Team Jacquees. They came and showed up and showed out. And I had a good time. Chris, my brother, too. That's somebody that I looked up to real heavy in the game. And just to be with him, like I say, it was a great experience. And I know we got plenty more moments to come. And we actually got an album that we getting ready to drop, me and Chris Brown.
Wow, you and Chris Brown.
Yeah, we got a full album that we recorded that we just trying to figure out when to drop it.
Now, how many tracks is that looking like?
We recorded so many, but we probably put out like 12 or 10.
12?
Probably.
You have a name for the album?
Nah, we ain't got a name yet.
Not that far ahead?
I know it's gonna be something crazy though, but the music is done though.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Have you put any titles to these tracks? And you kind of like tip us off to anything?
Yeah, we got Chris actually previewed one of the records on his Instagram before it was actually this year, like kind of like right before we went on tour.
Okay.
The record called Mouth.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was one of the records that we kind of previewed.
Nice. So much is happening for you because of all the success you're having, and life must be moving a mile a minute. But looking back at that tour, I'm sure you learned a lot. What was one of the prevailing lessons that you learned just from all of these legends?
Well, I think going on tour with Chris, it kind of just like let me know that, don't forget it is still stages to the game, because I performed first. And, at first when they told me that I had to perform first, I kind of like felt some type of way like, damn, I got to go first. But it ended up being a good thing, you know what I'm saying? Because I set the show off, you know what I'm saying? Like, I brought the energy first. So it ended up just being a good thing. I ended up learning that, like, no matter the position, just take advantage of whatever position you're in.
Right.
And that's kind of like what I took out of the Chris tour.
Yeah. We were talking before we went live about just the crossover of sports lessons. That's sporting right there, man.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? No matter where you are in the field, just make the mess of it.
Exactly.
I want to talk about this capsule collection you got going on. You're doing a really cool activation in Times Square this week for it. I love what you did with it because you paid homage to your mom, her favorite color being orange.
Yeah.
She was in the Army. Of course, you have the camouflage influences.
Yeah.
But just speak about the capsule collection just overall.
Well, shout out to David and the whole spray ground. David always believed in me. The whole spray ground, like, they always been down with me, FYB, like everything I've been doing. So with these bags, I wanted to, like, of course, show some love to my mama. So, that's why I put the orange. And my mom was in the Army. So you can see the Army fatigue. And I got 4275 on there. That's the house, where I grew up. That's my album name.
The name of the album.
Yeah, and you see the FYB patches on there. FYB, that's my label. You know what I'm saying? That's my group. You know what I'm saying? Saw me tatted up. And, the bags just represent me. And they really swagged up. And then you see the bag that say 10,000. I put the 10,000 on there because, like, that's kind of like what I usually, like, walk around with, $10,000 cash. And you see it say, this ain't your money on the side of the bag because it's not your money. It's my money. And that was a saying from BED. And the bag's just real fun, and they really swagged up, too. Like, whenever I wear them in the streets, people always be like, what's that? And I tell them, like, oh, these my bags. They drop them with spray ground. Yeah. So shout out to David and the whole spray ground. I'll be out there in New York City tomorrow at Times Square. You can come out there and meet me and get a bag.
Yeah, definitely, man. I liked what you said, though, about the capsule collection. You may have been speaking to Billboard when you said it, that it was a natural extension for you to get into fashion because even from a young age, you've just been a creator, not necessarily just in music, but really across the board. So other than music and fashion, where would you like to create in the future?
Other than music and fashion, I think it was real dope what LeBron did with the school. Like, that was super dope. Like, if I could ever reach that level of success to be able to do something like that, I definitely would. But I want to get into movies, even though that kind of back on music, but and just all type of businesses.
Yeah. Would you like to be in front of the camera in movies, or would you like to be behind the camera, like producing, directing, that sort of thing?
Honestly, I would want to be both.
Okay.
In front and behind, because even with my videos, like, I don't know if everybody know, but of course I work with directors, but I always direct my videos. I know how I want my shots to look, because I don't watch a lot of movies and videos growing up, so it's kind of like certain stuff that I know, like, oh no, this got to look like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, it has to be like this. I'm real hands-on. Yep.
Totally. You're a brave guy. You did the no auto-tune challenge on Instagram, and you could have done that with a lot of songs. You did a Stevie Wonder song.
Yeah, and I was just really, when I said no auto-tune, I was just really bullshitting. Like, I didn't even try to make it a thing, you know what I'm saying? I was really feeling good. We was on the road, you see, because I was in the car, it was packed.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, put that beat on. And I was listening to Donnell Jones' cover of Stevie Wonder. So I was just like, man, I'm finna do it. And I killed it, though. It was fun.
Yeah. Really quick, I meant to ask you this for a minute now. How did you get T.I. on your first EP? I think that was such an amazing look.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to T.I., man, because that's my homie now, man. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Tip, man. I really rock with T.I. But when I was young, I didn't even know T.I. But see, don't nobody know, like, I remember, because I used to do a lot of shows with, like, the OMG girls. Like, that's, like, his daughter and all them. So we kind of, like, grew up together. And I remember I was at this birthday party. I think it was, like, Reginae's birthday party. It was Zanique party. Somebody had a party. And I remember I was on the dance floor. And me and one of the homies, we was dancing or whatever. And then Tip came over there, and he was like, "Hey, shawty, they told me about you. He was like, you gonna be a star. You feel me?" And I was like 15. And I never forget, I know he probably don't remember, but see, when I had him on the track, it was like kind of like a put together thing. It's like the person who I was signed to, and you know what I'm saying, not taking no credit away, because you know that kind of boosted me up, but he already had the verse on another artist record, but he took that T.I. verse because it never came out, and we just put it on my verse, you know what I'm saying? So the first official record that I had with T.I. is called Certified, and it's out right now. You know, shout out to the Coalition DJs and Jagged Edge. Like, now me and Tip got a real relationship, you know what I'm saying? Like, Tip the homie, like I could call T.I. right now, you feel me?
That's amazing,
Yeah.
man. All right, we're not going to take any more of your time. You're hitting the stage at 8 p.m. tonight.
Yeah.
Jacquees, thanks so much, my man.
Thank you, man. All
Very
love.
nice
Shout out to
meeting you.
Billboard.